Hey everybody, it's time for another weekly update. This will be number 2. The last week I was actually gone to do some service calls in the field. So one of the instruments that I'd made for the University of Oklahoma, it's been out for about a year and a half now, and they were starting to have a few just routine maintenance things that needed done to it. So I went over there and spent a day with a day in transit as well, getting that all taken care of. So I didn't get a lot of cleaning up or organizing done. But it's also coming up on the end of the financial year for most of the government institutions, which I do a lot of contract servicing them. So it's been really actually quite busy, which is great. But for the next few months until the end of October, it's pretty much going to be non-stop. So I don't expect to have a lot of time to really get the shop in order for a couple months. But then I'll have a little bit of a breather towards the end of the year with just more of a normal workload. So that's nice. But with that said, I'm going to show you a couple of the things that have been going on in spite of some of the travel. So another reason that I didn't get a lot of time in the shop last week was I went to an auction Wednesday. So there was a manufacturing business locally that made semi-tanks, tanks for hauling different fluids, and they went out of business. So they had a liquidation sale, and I only picked up 2 things. Unfortunately, everything went very, very high. I was looking at a plasma table that they had. They actually had 2 plasma tables, CNC, and the largest one was much too large for my shop, really. I'm not even sure how we would have hauled it. The second one was smaller. It was a 4x4 foot table, but it went for $200 less than new, and it was very, very well used. So that just wasn't worth it. They had lots of welders that were going for probably 80% of new, and they were very old. So unfortunately, not a lot of big equipment finds. But I did get this little Greenlee knockout punch set, and it looks to be in pretty good shape. Got that for about $50. And then I got this hand tapping machine for $55. And that's going to be really nice because I do a lot of hole tapping, and it's been a little painful on the wrist to do it otherwise and to keep everything lined up. So hopefully that will do until I can go ahead and get a flex arm tapping machine, which I've been looking at, but I'm probably looking in the neighborhood of $3,000 to get a flex arm all set up and get the correct number of heads that I would need for it. So for now, this will make things easier. It's a good interim step. You can also see on the pallet over there, I've acquired some new servers that are going to go in my rack in the cleaner room in there, and I'll be running an inventory system on one of those as soon as I get some drives set up. I'm actually having to learn quite a bit about this serial attached SCSI drive that these use, so still doing some research on that to try to find out what I need, if I do need those, or if I can use plain old SATA drives. Also received some new printed circuit boards last week, so I haven't got them out of the package yet. But you can see there are a few in there, 2 different boards that I need to go ahead and build up this week. The parts are on the way. And at some point we'll do a video showing you how the printed circuit board building process actually works. Sort of the last thing in this update is going to be these. So these are called Geo Rods, and these have 4 geophones in them, so they measure vibration. Normally when we're doing seismic surveys on land, we just use a single geophone, or maybe a couple per location, and we stick them in the ground with what's called a land case. So it's just a spike on the end of the geophone, basically. When you're working in a polar environment with lots of snow, that doesn't get very good coupling. The vibration doesn't transmit very well through the spike because the snow is not packed hard around it always. So these were designed by some folks at the British Antarctic Survey, and they have 4 geophones, so we get twice the signal. And we also have a very large surface area because of this ABS body that they're all housed in. So there's my hand for scale. So this is about 2 feet long. So we put the geophones in, and then we connect them all. I'm using printed circuit boards, thin printed circuit boards to do that, and then pour it full of epoxy. So we've had some difficulties with that. I'm going to be going ahead, and it's hard to see, but there are some small bubbles in the epoxy. So I need to put that in a vacuum chamber first. And we also had some difficulty with it leaking out this strain relief here. So we're probably going to be putting silicone in there. I've got to talk to the manufacturer and make sure that won't interfere with the curing. But I'm going to be building about 50 of these over the next few weeks. Having a little bit of a supply chain issue with the geophones, as they don't have all the springs they need to build them. So they're going to be out for about 11 weeks, which is going to put me pretty hard up against a deadline. So that's going to be an interesting thing to get 50 of these built and shipped. Yeah, it sounds like we have a fire truck going by. We're pretty close to a fire station, so that's a pretty common occurrence. You can also see I've got these new serial number labels. And so the idea with those is I'm going to be able to track each Geo Rod, and they'll go on many of my products, and hold the calibration for it here locally in a database. So I didn't have a pocket machined in these ABS rods initially for that, so I went ahead and did that here, and then sent the modification to the manufacturer of the rods as well. So the next batch I get will have those. They also have a hole out here horizontally that a rope goes through, and that's so it's easy to put a bunch of them over your arm when you're in the field. So you can see I've got a big box of rope there that's all been cut to length. I was gonna buy one of the hot knife rope cutters, but those are sort of expensive and I don't know how often I'm gonna be doing this. So instead I was able to get a hot knife blade for a soldering gun and just put it in the vise, use a little bit of Velcro to hold the trigger down, and it actually worked out really well. I was able to cut 75 ropes in about 30 minutes, and they all have nice seared ends, so they're not gonna come unraveled as they get carried around. But it did generate quite a bit of smoke. So good thing I didn't try to do this anywhere other than out here in the shop. So that's a quick update on some of the fun things that have been going on. Like I said, as you can see, we haven't done a lot of organization yet, but we are certainly getting there and have lots of jobs going on. That doesn't mean that we're too busy for whatever job you might have. So if you do have something that you'd like us to quote, be sure to go to our website and hit contact us, or you can email me, john@lehmangeophysical.com. Have a great week, and we'll see you next weekend.